Sea of Thieves Season 10 is coming to an end soon, and I thought it would be a fun idea to go over all the things that were changed and added over the course of the last few months and rank them on a tier list. Our tier list will have 4 different categories. S tier for the changes that were incredible and I feel like are just absolutely outstanding. A tier is for updates that were great but not perfect. B tier is for updates that were meh. And finally, F tier is just for updates that need a lot of work or maybe were just really that terrible. Starting off the tier list, we have the quality of life updates. This season we ended up getting a ton of them, and I'm just kind of gonna lump them all together into one thing for the sake of the tier list not being insanely complicated. The quality of life updates include the ability to keep your rowboats for your next play session on a captain's ship, as well as being able to repair them, getting a second stove on every ship type, the fruit crate being updated to have better fruit in them, and a few other things. These honestly have to go into S tier without a doubt because all of these are really only wins that make the game more fun to play for everybody. Next up, we have the Skull of Siren Song. I really think that this is my favorite world event that has been added to the game since I've been playing. I really like that you have to opt in order to participate, and I really like that it gives you a lot more of a chance to compete for something valuable as it encourages PvP. This one is going to have to go in A, however, because even though it's fantastic, most of my times doing this world event, I did end up just sailing to both islands and turning it in without any contest at all. The positive of having to opt in and fight for it might also be a negative because maybe players just weren't aware that they had to opt in or maybe just weren't that interested, but who knows. The anti-cheat. The anti-cheat is a feature that was announced at the start of the season without a release date. This feature would obviously be used to stop cheaters from cheating and increase the quality of fun and enjoyment that players get from the game overall. However, this is going to have to go in the F tier, only because it hasn't been released yet and we haven't heard news about it in months. I'm sure it'll be great when it gets here, but it's just not yet. One of the first things that we learned about Season 10 is that it was going to introduce guilds into the Sea of Thieves experience, and I think that a lot of what they've done with guilds and how they've been built is really awesome. I think that it's already become a normal part of Sea of Thieves, and that it feels like it could have been there from the start, and it's only been a few months since it was actually added. I made a community guild here on YouTube and invited anyone who wanted to join, met a whole bunch of cool people, and had a whole bunch of fun. But I'm gonna have to only put this in A tier instead of S tier for one specific reason. It was so incredibly hyped up, but we only got 1 month of ledger rewards, even to this day. The coin and the animated paintings are really cool, but I feel like ledgers are one of the biggest things that would inspire guilds to continue to work together toward a common goal, and there hasn't been any more. Safer Seas was definitely a little bit of a controversial thing when it was first announced, but as time went on and the update rolled out, we were able to see that this was really a net positive for the game. New players were given a playground to learn the game a little bit better and hone their skills, without having to worry about other players completely trampling them into the ground. And on the flip side, this allowed high seas servers to be more populated by players who know what they're getting into. This update really just made the game better for everybody, so this one's going in S tier as well. The sword changes, S tier. I don't really have too much to say about this one, but they made my favorite weapon in the game work better than it used to. Now I can use it more reliably and have even more fun. A recent change that was made was converting the DA sails from its old shape to the more normal sail shape that it is now. I really think that this is good, since the intended point of having DA sails was kind of more or less to show off that you've spent a lot of time on this game, and not to have an absurd tactical advantage while sailing larger ships. I am going to have to put this in A tier, because this change did finally allow players to decorate their ships the way they want to again, without feeling like they have to use DA or be put at an unfair disadvantage. However, in my opinion, the way they decided to fill in the sails where the gap was makes them look so ugly. The Chest of Fortune being moved to the Fort of the Damned is easily one of the things that makes the least sense to me from this season. Because how can we call this the Fort of Fortune when the Chest of Fortune isn't even there anymore? Don't get me wrong, the Fort of Fortune is still quite valuable, and I understand that they probably just wanted to pull more attention toward Fort of the Damned, but I feel like this was just kind of a strange thing to do. I'm going to put this in B tier because I'm not really sure why they did it, but it's not the worst. And finally, the Battle Pass. This season's Battle Pass included 2 ship sets which I absolutely loved. The Stormfish Chaser set has become one of my most used ship sets in the last few months, and it included the best cannon flares the game has ever seen. I personally didn't love the outfit that it came with, but I think it was fine and maybe just not for me. So I'm gonna have to put this one in A tier. And there we go, I think that's pretty much everything.